Stuck in the Gravel. You're here with Daniel
and Chloe.
Today we will be discussing the 7th round of the Formula 1 season held in Emilia, Italy, and the 8th round of the season held in Monaco.
FP2 brought warmer conditions and more aggressive qualifying simulations, where McLaren emerged as the front-running team. Norris topped the timesheets, ahead of Alonso and Piastri. Ferrari's lack of pace became a growing concern, with neither Leclerc or Hamilton cracking the top 5. The session also featured strong showings from Williams and rookie Isaac Hadjar, while Tsunoda had a close call at Aqua Minerale.
FP3 was a final qualifying warm-up under overcast skies, where Piastri again set the benchmark, ahead of Norris and Vstappen. Albon's top 10 pace for Williams turned heads, and Antonelli continued to outperform expectations, edging close to Hamilton's times. Colapinto had a small spin at Ravazza, but avoided damage. Overall, the sessions hinted at a strong McLaren challenge, a strategically conservative Red Bull, worrying signs for Ferrari, and a fierce midfield battle brewing between Aston Martin, Williams, Alpine and Racing Bulls.
Qualifying was very dramatic from the get-go. Q1, Yuki Tsunoda suffered a heavy crash after riding the curbs aggressively, ending his session prematurely. Franco Colapinto exited the garage into the fast lane a bit too early, drawing a potential one-place grid penalty. Ollie Behrman sneaked into P10, though fans debated whether Gabriel Bortoleto should have held that spot. Fernando Alonso stunned with a P3 finish in Q1.
Controversy struck when Behrman's lap wasn't reinstated after a red flag, benefiting Bortoleto. Colapinto's earlier crash kept him out of Q2. Notably, both Ferraris and local hero Antonelli were knocked out, shockingly early exits.
In Q3, Oscar Piastri took pole with a 1 minute 14.670. The first McLaren pole at Imola since Kimi Räikkönen in 2005. Vstappen was just 300ths behind, followed by George Russell. Isaac Hadjar made headlines with a strong P9 just ahead of Pierre Gasly.
After the formation lap had been completed and the race kicked off at 3 o'clock local time in warm and dry conditions, Piastri initially launched away strongly, but Vstappen was not to be deterred, and the world champion pulled off an incredible overtake by squeezing through the Tamburello chicane to snatch the lead. Behind them, Russell had a solid start before having to fend off a chasing Norris, while Leclerc had gained a position to move up into P10. And as the action settled following the first couple of laps, the Monegasque looked to be in a fighting mood following Ferrari's disappointing Saturday as he scrapped with Gasly, resulting in the Alpine running wide through the gravel.
Elsewhere, Hamilton was also looking racy as he tried to find a way past Antonelli in a duel for P11, with the Mercedes ultimately holding the position. Up front, meanwhile, Verstappen had built a lead of 1.6 seconds from Piastri by lap 5, the pair followed by Russell, Norris, Alonso, Sainz, Albon, Stroll, Leclerc and Hadjar.
While Imola might be a tricky circuit to overtake on, there was plenty of drivers trying to pressure their opponents into battles across the pack. Norris was hot on the tail of Russell in the scrap for third, while Alonso had a chasing Sainz behind him.
That fight between Russell and Norris continued to heat up, leading to Norris trying to make a move on lap 9 before an attempt one tour later saw the McLaren briefly dip his wheels onto the grass. "I'm not sure how I'm going to make it to the target lap pushing like this," Russell radioed him, voicing concerns about his tyre life. This was perhaps music to the ears of Alonso, with the back and forth between the Mercedes and McLaren cars allowing the Spaniard to close in. However, it didn't take long for Norris to pass Russell through the chicane on lap 11, meaning that the Briton now faced the challenge of closing the gap to Piastri 6 seconds up ahead. After all of this, Russell dived into the pit lane to swap his medium tyres for a set of the hards, with a flurry of pit stops suddenly taking place a little earlier than had been expected. Alonso was among those to stop, sparking a moment of drama when flames appeared from the front brakes of the Aston Martin as he exited the pit lane.
Piastri opted to pit for the hard rubber on lap 14, but the stop proved to be a fairly slow one at 3.6 seconds. Leclerc, meanwhile, looked to have gained during the pit stop phase. The Ferrari driver found himself ahead of Russell, Sainz and Alonso on the road after all of this group had pitted. Verstappen, meanwhile, had stayed out on track with a 10-second lead over Norris, who was also yet to pit, while the Dutchman's teammate Tsunoda tried to make Piastri's life more difficult as the Australian tried to overtake him for P10. The Japanese racer putting up a good fight before the McLaren ultimately made a successful move.
as Piastri gained further positions by picking off more cars that had yet to stop, that being Behrman and Colapinto. Leclerc continued his own ascent by clinching P11 from Tsunoda. Up at the front, Norris was told by his engineer, "The key for us is free air and going long." Would a one-stop work for those extending their opening stints? Strategy was proving a key topic of discussion throughout the pack, with Sainz who had already made a stop while teammate Alex Albon had not, suggesting that a one-stop was the way to go. Hamilton, meanwhile, was also on a split strategy to the other Ferrari and debated whether an undercut could be effective, only to be told that there was too much traffic around him.
By lap 25, Verstappen remained 9 seconds clear of Norris up front, followed by Albon, Hadjar, Antonelli, Hamilton, Piastri, Hülkenberg, Leclerc and Behrman, with Piastri and Leclerc the only two in the top 10 to have made a pit stop. It did not take long for that order to change as Piastri swept past Hamilton for 6th place, meaning that Antonelli was next in his sights. Having to carve through his traffic was not helping the championship leader out, with the gamble to pit him early seemingly not paying off. Norris peeled into the pits on lap 29, the Briton emerging back on track in P7 on the hard tyres. And just as he returned to the circuit, the yellow flags were flying due to Ocon having pulled onto the grass due to an issue with his Haas.
As a virtual safety car was subsequently called, this worked out perfectly for Verstappen, who dived into the pit lane for his stop and returned to the track in the lead. Others also seized the opportunity to make their own stops, with all those who had yet to pit taking the chance to do so. Several early stopping cars also pitted for a second time under the virtual safety car, including Leclerc, who voiced his frustrations about the timing over the radio. Piastri also made a second stop, bringing him back out into P4, while some potential unsafe releases looked to have occurred during those busy few minutes in the pit lane. After all of this had shaken out and the VSC period had come to an end, the order on lap 33 stood as Verstappen, now holding a whopping lead of 19 seconds, from Norris, Albon, Piastri, Hadjar, Antonelli, Hamilton, Leclerc, Alonso and Stroll.
While things looked to be working out well for Albon, his teammate Sainz was in the wars as he fought with Tsunoda for P13, the pair making contact as the Spaniard squeezed past. Hamilton, meanwhile, looked to be in dynamic form after benefiting from a stop during the VSC phase, the 7-time world champion taking P6 from Antonelli before surging ahead of Hadjar for P5. Elsewhere, Piastri had closed the gap down to Albon in a duel for the final spot on the podium, and the Papaya car was soon through into turn 2. And at the other end of the top 10, Alonso had lost out on 10th place to Hülkenberg, the Aston Martin seemingly slipping back after a promising performance in qualifying.
In contrast to the British team struggles, Ferrari looked resurgent following a challenging Saturday, with Leclerc clearing Hadjar to take P6. Hamilton was running 1.6 seconds up the road in P5, but with the latter having to nurse the medium tyres, could the squad potentially be faced with the team order call and if Leclerc should close in? Speaking of squad strategy decisions, Gasly voices gratitude as the Frenchman was allowed through on new teammate Colapinto to move up into P15, given the opportunity to chase down Stroll up ahead. Alonso, meanwhile, labelled himself as the unluckiest driver in the world as he continued to slide backwards. Another person not experiencing much luck was home favourite Antonelli, who pulled off into the grass at turn 8 on lap 46 due to an issue with his Mercedes. A full safety car was then deployed and Verstappen took the opportunity to pit again, having been placed well out on track to make the stop.
Norris also visited the pits but suffered a slightly slow stop, bringing the Briton out in third behind Piastri, who had not pitted again. Albon also made another stop before emerging back on track in fifth, with the top 10 now standing as Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Albon, Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Hadjar and Hülkenberg. There looked to be concerns about tyre life ahead of the restart, with Leclerc questioning whether he could remain in the points on his old rubber, while Norris pointed out that Piastri's 18-lap-old hard tyres may not hold out well, in contrast to his own fresher rubber. For me, I think McLaren should have let Lando past. I mean, we've spoke about this before and I think it's good to voice it here. Personally, I believe that Norris should have been let past. I think if you look at the tyre life and at the cars behind, I think there would have been substantial enough. I mean, we saw in the restart, Piastri, when Norris was chasing him down into turn 1 and 2, but then out of nowhere Leclerc came, and after his worries about, being able to keep up and stay in the points, he's managed to, hold on to the back of Norris. So I think maybe that could have happened with Norris, and also obviously with how long it took Norris to get past Oscar effectively, it means that, I don't know, I just feel like they've took away their chances at winning that race.
Yeah, we did discuss this before, and I still think that it was the right call to just leave them to it, because at the end of the day, they're there to race, and that's what they did. And yes, they might have lost out on P1, but at the end of the day, we'll never know. And it's like a what-if game of, if they'd have given up, what if they'd have called out orders over the radio and said, Piastri, give the place to Norris? They might have had a P1, but at the end of the day, they're there to race, and that's what they did. And I think realistically speaking, I don't think they'd have caught Vstappen. Vstappen was gone, and even if they'd have caught him, he'd have made it very hard for them to overtake, because he's seeing this season how hard it is to keep P1, and also that it's not going to just be a breeze of, I'll win at the end of the year. Like, he's going to see that it's not going to be plain sailing this year, because now they've not just got to think about the McLaren's and Ferraris. Like, they've got Williams that are now closing in on the pack, and I think, so I think Verstappen's going to be protecting positions like there's no tomorrow, really, isn't he? Because he I think he knows about, in the long run, that they're going to have to close off on having the best positions, kind of maintaining that throughout the year, so that they kind of get these points where other teams might end up having to retire the car or not getting as good with points, or so
I mean, these are the kind of issues that happened last season, and we noticed that in a way it caused plenty of issues. Obviously they did repay each other, but there was always one who was being stubborn, and it's not healthy for the team. I mean, put it in a sense of, they are two very good drivers. They're two young drivers. Lando's 25 now. Oscar's 21? 22?
Older than that, 23, I think.
He's 23. Damn.
I think so.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like having two hot shoot drivers like that want to be number one. They want to outscore their teammate. I mean, I'm sure I heard something on, like, watching the post-race show, and it was Christian Horner talking about the way McLaren work, the way they move. And I'm sure he said something, and I don't know, I'm not going to say this for sure, this is me paraphrasing as best as possible. He mentioned something about how McLaren have got two hot shoot drivers, whereas Red Bull have only technically got one, and one driver to focus on the championship. But that clearly points out that, Tsunoda's just a waste of space then, clearly, because they're not going to let him fight for it, are they, unless he rapidly takes over. So he's talking about a successful team, how it requires one driver to be that person, one driver to sit back. No, I don't know. It's one of these, but yeah.
I think Red Bull isn't the greatest team to compare it to, because I think at the end of the day, Max is Horner's baby, and he's gonna nurture him, and he's always gonna pick him first, because he's put work into him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, whoever gets that other seat, whether it is Lawson, Tsunoda, any other driver on that grid, heck, they were vouching for Lando at one point and like were vying for him as their second driver. And realistically, even if Lando had have got that seat, it would have still been Max as the first driver.
Yep.
So I think at the end of the day, it's a bit unfair at Red Bull because of the fact that they're kind of wasting talent, because they would rather put more effort and more work into Max than say, right, look, let's carry on working with Max. Carry on giving him, like, he's an amazing driver and he deserves everything that he's earned. But at the same time, other drivers deserve that opportunity, because realistically, Max isn't going to be there forever. Because
especially with Aston Martin trying to poach him.
Well, as much as you've got older drivers on the grid, literally Fernando Alonso, who's like 43 now, I think.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of the shock, I think, within the age range of the sport, because of the fact that he's carried on and he's carried on. And to be fair, he still looks in fighting shape for an F1 driver sort of thing. I think, Max isn't going to be with Red Bull forever, whether it's because he retires or because he goes to another team. But I think that they've just got to have that balance of, right, we've got this driver who's previous F1 driver, so let's put some more time and effort into them. But then we've got another driver who's potentially a bit less experienced, let's put some effort into them. But you've got to understand that there's going to be differences in how they race. There's going to be differences in what they know, their experiences, because I think, especially for Tsunoda, he's come from the sister team. He's used to not having the best things. Yeah. And realistically, even there, he was overlooked by new drivers that were coming in and going out. And
yeah, he was.
I think he's gone from being second driver at a really mediocre team to being second driver at a really good team with a teammate that is, in Horner's eyes, off the charts. And I think obviously
the star, everyone wants to be
Max.
Everyone wants to meet Max. Everyone wants to be Max. Everyone wants to, copy everything that he does. Do you know?
Yeah, he's like the like peak of what people would aspire to be, kind of thing, because he's a very good driver. He has a very good like mentality and mindset to do with winning and stuff, where he doesn't take it for granted, but it's nice for him when he does win.
Yeah, it's a bit like Mercedes 2017 to 2021 with Hamilton and Bottas. I think, it's the exact same situation in a way, but they had a bit more freedom at Mercedes. In my eyes, they didn't necessarily let them race. It was more of a Hamilton go through.
Yeah.
But,
No, I see what you mean, but I think
it's not as bad as what it is at Red Bull.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in the way of they had a friendship behind it, if that makes sense.
Bottas was happy to play that second driver role.
Yeah, I think it was more so the fact that there was an actual bond behind them racing, as in, yes, on track they would like battling each other for positions and battling each other as F1 drivers, but I think off the track they had a friendship that they still have to this stage, you know what I mean? So I think that's the difference. I think that Red Bull don't have enough freedom of, well, no, I think you obviously can't force two people to be like close, you can't force them to be like best mates, but I think that's the difference, is that they enjoyed each other's company, Valtteri and Lewis.
Yeah.
And I think that Valtteri had a lot of respect for like Hamilton, with obviously every reason to. But I think they both had a mutual respect for each other kind of thing. But it wasn't like I'm better than you.
Yeah.
Therefore I deserve to be first driver or anything like that. But I think it's, at Red Bull, as much as Max isn't like that as far as we can see. I think it's very much that Christian plays that role of Max is better than everyone else. Put him at first. He deserves to be there. You don't get a say. You don't get an option. You don't get to prove yourself with all that. So I think that no matter who you put in that seat, they're always just going to fall short of the mark and fall short of any opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Should we move on? Okay. As the stricken Mercedes of Antonelli was removed from the circuit, anticipation was building over when the action would resume, and the answer came when the safety car pulled into the pits at the end of lap 53, allowing Vstappen to execute a strong restart and hold the lead ahead of a 10-lap sprint to the finish. While the Dutchman was already 1.5 seconds clear, one tour down, Norris had closed to within 1 second of Piastri in what could prove to be a quandary for McLaren. Elsewhere, Albon was hot on the tail of Leclerc, the Williams on much fresher tyres, while Hamilton looked to be all over the back of Russell and Tsunoda, had picked off Hulkenberg for P10.
Hamilton had soon overtaken his former teammate to move up into sixth, just as Norris was getting even closer to the fellow McLaren driver Piastri. As the pair went side by side into turn 2, Norris slipped through to grab second place. Behind them, Albon was fighting hard to get past Leclerc, only for the Monegasque to defend against him. Things got incredibly close on lap 60, with the two cars getting nail-bitingly close, resulting in Albon running through the gravel and dropping back down to 6th. This allowed Hamilton to move up into 5th, before subsequently snatching 4th from his teammate and surging ahead of his fresher rubber. Albon then managed to close back in on Leclerc, but forget that bit. This allowed Hamilton to move up into 5th, before subsequently snatching 4th from his teammate and surging back ahead with his fresher rubber. Albon then managed to close back in on Leclerc, but would he be able to make a move and make it stick this time?
As the stewards opted to investigate the previous Albon and Leclerc incident, the Williams ultimately found a way past the Ferrari on the final lap of the race, leading Leclerc to ponder over the radio, "What did I do wrong?" Up ahead, Verstappen crossed the line to seal a 65th career victory, some 6.109 seconds ahead of Norris in second, while Piastri followed by a similar margin to his teammate in third. Hamilton ended his first Italian race as a Ferrari driver in 4th, with the Briton dedicating his result to the Tifosi.
Albon held on to 5th ahead of Leclerc, while Russell took some valuable points for the Mercedes in 7th, on a day where only one of their cars made the finish. Sainz claimed P8 in the Williams, followed by Hadjar in 9th and Tsunoda in the final points-paying position of 10th. Alonso ended up in P11, marking a disappointing outing for Aston Martin, with Hulkenberg behind in P12, Gasly in P13 and Lawson in a quiet P14 for Racing Bulls.
Stroll claimed 15th place, while Colapinto was 16th on his return to the F1 grid for Alpine, and Behrman and Bortoletto completed the order in 17th and 18th places. Antonelli and Ocon both recorded a DNF at Imola, with each having to pull off the track owing to an issue of their respective cars.
The end result of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix means that Piastri continues to lead the Drivers' Championship on 146 points, 13 points clear of Norris in second, but Verstappen has now closed the gap to just 9 points behind Norris in third place.
On to driver performances. For the top finishers, Max Verstappen took a dominant win in Red Bull's 400th race, flawless under pressure and perfect on restarts. Oscar Piastri led well early on, but was undercut by teammate Norris and Verstappen due to McLaren's mishap. Lando Norris showed maturity, biding his time before taking second place. For the midfield, Aston Martin delivered on upgrades. Alonso's early pace showed promise, even if he had faded late. Williams had a standout weekend. Albon's 5th was richly deserved. Racing Bulls and Alpine had mixed fortunes. Tsunoda's crash hurt, while Gasly's... I don't know why that's there. That's wrong. But yeah.
Underperformers. Ferrari had a home disaster, both drivers out in Q2, and though Leclerc ran strong, he faded late. And for Antonelli, He had a promising run, but was ended by a reliability issue, disappointing the Bologna crowd. Antonelli impressed, defending against Hamilton until his retirement. Hadjar held his own in Q3 and finished solidly. Colapinto struggled with errors but showed potential before crashing in Q1. And Behrman was unlucky in qualifying but showed racecraft despite a back foot start.
Some of the team decisions and performance. McLaren had the pace but fumbled pitch strategy, costing them a win. Red Bull's clean execution gave Vstappen the edge. And as the Martins upgrades worked, Alpine and Haas still need answers.
McLaren have extended their lead, with Mercedes dropping points even more to the Papaya team. Ferrari fall further behind after a forgettable home qualifying that was recovered in the race.
Aston's new floor and side pod changes seemed effective. Williams showed noticeable pace improvements, possibly due to aero tweaks.
So, in terms of the fans, there has been huge support for Colapinto's return despite a rocky weekend, and Antonelli's heartbreak united Ferrari and neutral fans in disappointment. Italian fans were torn. Red for Ferrari or blue/white for Antonelli. In terms of memes and comments, Pasta Wars, Ferrari versus Antonelli, trended in Italy. Albon's Leclerc hunt became a meme storm post-race. Radio chatter, Verstappen's "Let's go" 400th win and Norris's "He's not pulling away" lit up team comms.
Looking ahead in the championship picture, Verstappen's consistency with his finishes are keeping him in touch with the two Papaya boys. Oscar still leads the way, but Lando has cut down his lead to 13 points. On to the Monaco Grand Prix. The jewel in the crown. The Formula One circus rolls into Monte Carlo for the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix, the most glamorous and technically demanding event of the season. Set against the backdrop of luxury yachts and tight marina turns, Monaco's street circuit promises high drama, precision driving, and little margin for error. Following a thrilling Emilia weekend, all eyes are on the championship leaders, rising rookies, and resurgent midfield teams looking to conquer the concrete jungle.
So, for the track preview, the circuit length is 3.337 kilometres, and there are 78 laps. Some key sections are Saint Devote, Casino Square, the hairpin, the swimming pool chicane. It is extremely high in terms of difficulty for overtaking, as qualifying is often half of the battle. The teams are forced into making two pit stops so that it can shake up the race, hopefully with the new C6 tyre being used.
Some key talking points. McLaren momentum. After a commanding performance in Imola, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris arrive in Monaco with real belief. Piastri's qualifying prowess will be critical on a track where pole position often translates to victory. With McLaren showing strong low-speed grip and traction, they are legitimate contenders.
Despite Verstappen's win in Imola, questions linger about Red Bull's relative pace in tighter corners. Monaco may test their car's traction and balance more than any other circuit. Verstappen has won here before and will need to rely on his clinical edge in qualifying to maintain his lead in the championship.
The Tifosi were left disappointed at Imola. With Leclerc's history of heartbreak at his home race and Hamilton still settling into the new team, Ferrari will be desperate to turn their fortunes around.
With a strong showing in Imola and promising upgrades working well, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll could be the dark horses this weekend. Alonso, a past Monaco winner, will thrive if the car gives him the platform.
Alex Albon's form had been one of the standout stories of the season. If Williams continue its upward trajectory, expect Albon to challenge for a strong Q3 spot. Monaco's precision-heavy layout suits his clean driving style.
So, onto the rookie pressure.
I didn't get that. The internet isn't reachable.
Oi!
So, onto the rookie pressure cooler. Oh my gosh. So, onto the rookie pressure cooker. Kimi Antonelli faces enormous attention again, now racing on home soil, just across the border. Can he recover from the Emilia heartbreak and deliver in front of legions of Italian and Monegasque fans? Isaac Hadjar, Behrman and Colapinto will face their toughest challenge yet, staying clean on and quick on F1's trickiest track. A mistake-free weekend could be as valuable as points.
In Formula 2, it's round 5. The schedule is free practice on Thursday, May 22nd at 3 o'clock local time. Qualifying will be on the Friday, May 23rd at 10 past 3 local time. Sprint race is Saturday, May 24th at 2:15 local time. And the feature race is on Sunday, May 25th at 9:40 local time.
Due to Monaco's tight layout, F2 employs a split qualifying session. Drivers are divided into 2 groups. Group A, which is the even-numbered cars, and Group B, which is the odd-numbered cars. Each group has a separate session, and the fastest driver overall secures pole position for the feature race. The top 10 qualifiers are reversed for the sprint grid, adding strategic complexity to the weekend.
Following victories by Alex Dunn in both the Sakir and Imola feature races, and Juan Malcorrea's consistent performances, the championship battle is intensifying. Monaco's unique challenges could prove pivotal in shaping the title race. On to Formula 3, it is round 4. For their schedule, free practice is on Thursday, May 22nd at 10 past 1. Qualifying is on a Friday, May 23rd at 5 past 11 local time. Sprint race is Saturday, May 24th at 11:15 local time. And the feature race on the Sunday is May 25th at 8 a.m. local time.
Similar to F2, F3's qualifying is split into 2 groups to manage track congestion. Group A, yet again even-numbered cars, and Group B, odd-numbered cars. Each have separate sessions. The fastest driver overall earns pole position for the feature race. Nikola Solov's dominant performance in qualifying has positioned him as a strong contender for the weekend, with Rafael Camara and Santiago Ramos also showing impressive form in earlier rounds. The battle for championship is heating up.
Should we move on to predictions then?
Yep. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. For F3 pole, I've gone with Rafael Camara. I think just overall, what more can be said? He's just dominating. That's all I can say.
Well, funnily enough, I went for him as well as F3 pole. Yeah, I agree with you. There's not a lot really that you can say, but he's performing very well in qualifying for. Yeah.
Do you want to say your sprint race winner first?
Yeah. So to switch it up a bit, I've kind of gone with Nikola Solov as the sprint race winner. Yeah, just to switch it up a bit, and also because I think he seems to be getting a bit stronger as the weeks progress on, and as we go through more races, and yeah. Do you want to go on to yours?
Yeah, I've gone with Rafael Camara. I think now it is F3, anything can happen, and a lot of the time something does happen, but I just think he's going to lead, he's going to have a massive gap, and then that'll be it. Not much is going to happen in the race other than a few incidents towards the back of the pack. But towards the front, he could just storm away. For the feature race, I've gone with Tim Tramnitz again. I have faith in his driving ability. I think for a race that includes a pit stop, it's something that he really works well with. And I just think overall, if he qualifies well, he will do well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, how about you?
I went with Santiago Ramos because, as we said earlier, he's got like impressive form, and yeah, just trying to shake it up a bit really, because I think a lot of different people are showing quite a lot of promise. Obviously, Rafael Camara being the one that's showing the most promise. But yeah, I think they're all good contenders. Onto F2 for pole position. I've gone with Gabriele Mini.
See, now I've gone with Arvid Lindblad. I just think overall he's, obviously rookie season in F2, but when he was in his rookie season of F3, he did really well. So I think overall, what more can be said? The guy is just actually good, and I feel he's going to come into this weekend feeling confident, as he should, and I believe that his consistency is very key. So hopefully that leads to him having pole. But then I also can follow this on to him being, in my eyes, I reckon he'll take the sprint race as well. I think he'll be the winner for that. He's just a sensational driver in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I do agree. I think he's a very good driver. I've gone with Gabriele Mini because I think in terms of he's got the most, well, not the most, but he's got quite a few fastest laps and of like the races. But I think, I don't know, I think it'd be quite nice to see some of the like drivers who are on that like the list of the having the fastest laps. It'd be quite nice to see them a bit more, because I think they're kind of getting there, aren't they? But then they're not.
Yeah.
You don't actually see much of them. And for my sprint race winner, I've gone with Luke Browning, because similar to Gabriele Mini,
Yeah.
both very promising. Feature race winner, gone with Jack Crawford, because he's had a quite decent form so far this season, and yeah.
See, now I've gone with Alex Dunn. I think overall his aggressive driving style will suit well for the streets of Monte Carlo. I think he knows to obviously not go too aggressive, but to use it in a situation where, I mean, I know it's F2 and it's not F1, but we could also just see a repeat of 1988 Ayrton Senna, but who knows, do you know what I mean? He could dominate in that way if he pleases, I suppose, but, it all depends. Should we move on to F1?
Yep.
So now for F1, I've gone with Charles Leclerc. I think after seeing him in the past at Monaco, considering it's his home race as well, I believe that he will just be... He knows his streets well. He knows... I think, pole is heading his way.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. I think that it's home race. We all know that Charles is very passionate about being a Monegasque driver, and he has a lot of like respect for his home country, which is obviously understandable. But I think those are kind of the qualities that make him very good when it comes to the Monaco Grand Prix, or for Poland qualifying and stuff. I think he ends up being very driven, but I also think that from the practice session that's just happened, I think that lap time of 1:11, it's 4/10 off of Q1 last year, what he went through with. And I think
that was just the first practice session.
No,
right?
I know.
So
but I think that just shows that the Ferrari is...
I think it just shows overall, in general, just the F1 speed change between 2024 and 2025. But yeah.
But I also think it's shown that it's quite promising for Ferrari as well, in terms of, hopefully it means that they'll run decently at this track.
Yep.
But yeah, so I've also gone with him as my F1 winner.
So now F1 winner, I've gone with Lando Norris. I just can't see Leclerc winning it. Something's going to happen between Saturday and Sunday, and he's not going to be happy with his car on Sunday. Something wrong will happen. I can just see it happening. I don't know why. I think the Monaco curse is real, and I genuinely believe that it's gonna haunt him. It's let him have his 1 year of fun, and it's just gonna come back and cause more issues. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? I suppose.
I don't know. I'm thinking that the Monaco curse might have been real, and I think, hopefully, I'm also hoping that he's broken the curse potentially with that win last year. So we might see another win. I mean, not qualifying, practice earlier. He ended up like smashing a chunk of his front wing, didn't he?
Yeah, on the back of Stroll.
Yeah.
Typical.
Well, in a way, kind of great news because the Monaco curse could have wiped him out. Do you know what I mean?
That could have been the only bit of the curse coming.
But
it could have come early.
Yeah, exactly. It could have been like, no, it's all right.
Now you're making me question.
Because like it could have taken him out then, and then meant that Ferrari had to come and it could have completely wiped him out and been Ferrari have to rebuild a new car, and do you know what I mean? And then either they get loads and loads of penalties, and he has to start further back, which obviously we know is then tougher because qualifying's everything for Monaco really, because it's very tight to overtake on most corners, and kind of only opportunities you get to overtake, you have to be very quick and very smart as well. So I think it could have wiped him out then, but it didn't. Therefore, the curse might have been broken. So
let's just hope.
Why do you go with Lando?
Why did I go Lando? I just feel... See, after Imola, we know Max was on a completely different level. It just suited his car better, the track did, you know what I mean? I think he set that car up perfectly. But I do sit here and think that something in Lando will switch. He's had his time off social media. He doesn't even use social media anymore, really. He's got his media team and stuff like that, but social media just isn't the place for him. He's just completely just abandoned it. He's realised that it's not worth sitting on social media, and that he needs to get himself into a mindset, which I feel has proved to help if we look at the result of Imola. I mean, I just feel he could make decisions in pressured situations a lot better. It could... I don't know, I might be waffling here, but I just believe that, if he just focuses, calms down, maybe we can see something improve.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning into our podcast.
I've been Dan.
And I've been Chloe, and this is Stuck in the Gravel.